Welcome to Sports Betting Tips. My name is Scott Pritchard, professional sports bettor, senior handicapper at VegasInsider.com. As you know, the plays are time-stamped and documented, been featured on that site for well over 3 decades. And I'm also the founder of Pritchard'sPicks.com. Today, we're going to talk specifically about point spreads and line movements. What do they mean? How can you flat out take advantage from a value play? First of all, let's talk football. When does the point spread on football games come out? Football games are on Sunday, and oftentimes the point spreads start to come out late on Sunday night, 7 days before, as the late games are wrapping up on Sunday at a select few offshore books. They start posting numbers. Now, they will really limit how much you can bet, because for all intent and purpose, the people betting early and often are wise guys, sharp players like myself. So what they will do is they will set a number, and then one by one, they will let people bet into this specific number, and you're limited. Okay, you're really limited on how much you can bet. And then they will move that number. They'll have a pretty good idea what they think it should be, but the market will set the real number, meaning wise guys, sharp players, unfair advantage players like myself. So a lot of sports books in Vegas, as an example, they will not even post lines and totals for the upcoming weekend games on Sunday until Tuesday. And then they just simply copy what everyone else has done. But that we're talking about a day and a half of the wise guys really honing in on what that number should be. So from Tuesday to Friday, oftentimes not a lot of line movement. So that's considered a square number. It's been shopped, it's been chiseled, and it's settled in. Let's just say on a specific football game for Sunday that the point spread is a solid 6 everywhere. You have an opinion on the favorite, or you have an opinion on the underdog. Should you bet it at 6? Either way, you like the dog or you like the favorite, and the point spread is 6, and it's a 6 everywhere. Should you bet it? In a word, heck no. Why would you bet a square number? Because the point spread is there to create a 50-50 prop for the sports books, and then there's a tax, the juice, the vigorish, the vig, the rub, if you will. So you have, every time you want to win $1,000, you have to risk $1,100. So if you lay the 6 or take plus 6, square number, you're risking $1,100 to net $1,000. That would be the equivalent of me flipping a coin, and every single time you win, I pay you $1,000. Congrats. The bad news is the rub, the tax, the juice, the vig. Every time you lose, you pay me $1,100. Does that sound like a good deal? No, it's a terrible deal. So what you have to do as a professional sports bettor, unfair advantage player, sharp player, you have to get the best number or comparable to the best number with an informational advantage. I'll give you an example. If the favorite is -6 and it starts to move to 6.5 to 7, why did it move? Do you think Joe Public is moving that number, driving that number? No. It's the Sharpies that are moving that number. The odds makers do not want to move the number. They don't want to move the number because then they open themselves up to get middled, a topic for another day. So, but if all the money is coming in on the favorite, they have no choice but to move that number to entice and solicit underdog players. So they'll move it from 6 to 6.5 and or to 7. And now if you like the dog at plus 6, but it's 6 everywhere, it's a square number, you're not going to lay 110 on a square number. I mean, most people do, but they're called losers, recreational players. You don't want to do that. The idea here is if the line closes 7 and you're on the favorite, if you're sharp, you would have laid 6. When the number closes 7, you will have beaten the index by a full point. Conversely, if you like the dog and you took plus 6, you're a sucker. Why would you take plus 6 when the number closed 7? You did not beat the index, and that's not smart sports betting. It's not. So you always want to think in terms of, and I understand there's an entertainment value to sports betting. But if you're serious about taking your sports betting to another level, you really need to hone in and think about this. You want to think in terms of what can you do to offset the advantage that the sports books has on each and every bet. Generally speaking, the reason most people lose at sports betting is because you are always betting into a negative. What do I mean by that? I'm glad you asked. It means that you are always risking 110 to net 100. That means you have to be right 11 times out of 21 just to break even. I'll say it again. You have to be right 11 times out of 21 just to break even. That's the equivalent of 52.4%. You have to be right on a point spread, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 10, 52.4% of the time to break even. Let's flip the script. If you're the sports book, conversely, you only have to be right 47.4% of the time. 47.4% of the time on a coin toss proposition. So the way you offset that and the way you flip the script is you go from a small dog to win to becoming a small favorite to win, to where by being sharp and getting good numbers, you bet plus 7, 7.5 when it closes 6, or you lay the 6 when it closes 7, 7.5. Same rules apply when it comes to totals. There's a lot more variance, a lot more disparity, a lot more line movement when it comes to totals. You always want to think in terms of looking at your bet ticket. How do you know when you got a good number? How do you know when you have a good bet? It's pretty simple. Forget wins and losses for now. How do you know that you have a good bet? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but how do you know you have a good bet? It's simple. When the game kicks off or tips off, you look at your bet or you look at your bets. Did you beat the closing number? Did you beat the closing number? And if the answer is yes, you are a sharp bettor and you are going to make a lot of money long term. See the cashier.